Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete and another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Happy early New Year to all you BYU fans turning in on the weekend. A holiday weekend. We appreciate you. Welcome into the final edition of Cougar Sports Saturday in 2023 for Matt Baiamonte and Mitch Harper. Again, a happy early New Year to you. And we're bringing you some good BYU content today. We got some basketball guests. Spencer Johnson will join us in a little bit. Mitch Harper had a conversation with BYU head coach Kalani Sitake earlier this month. We'll replay that interview as well. So plenty of good stuff for you on Cougar Sports Saturday. Mitch, did you have a good Christmas before we get into that?
I sure did, Matt. It was a lot of fun. Had a lot of gift exchange, had some time off. It was a good time. I thoroughly enjoyed it, getting a little bit of a break and spending the Christmas time with my family. How about for you? Was it a lot of fun?
It was a real good time. Ate some good food. This time of year is always fun, but I also love the period after Christmas where there's big football games around the corner. Sports, it feels like are getting more, college basketball, we're getting close to conference play. The national championship in football is right around the corner. NFL playoffs, so it feels like sports are really cranking up.
It really does, and I'm excited for, we'll hit on some of those college football playoff games coming up and talk about some of the Big 12 bowls too here on over the next 3 hours on this game day edition of Cougar Sports Saturdays. We get you ready for BYU and Wyoming in hoops. Tip off today at 4 o'clock. But, what's also fun with Christmas is the BYU gifts that come with, on Christmas holiday. I don't know about you, but my family, there's always been, Christmas gifts that are BYU-centric. My son, Lincoln, he got a T-shirt that was a Big 12 Conference 16-team mascot edition shirt. He's already getting the early T-shirt of the new league already, and it had all the mascots. It even had Swoop. He's like, do I need to X out Swoop? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Like you that's your call, man. Like you can do what you need to do, Lincoln. But no, it was a fun time on Christmas and looking forward to New Year's and just looking forward to all the new exciting things on the horizon for BYU and this show and just the new year in general.
Let's start things off, though, on the hardwood. You touched on the big game coming up later this afternoon. Let's start there.
The leadoff. A look at the stories making headlines right now. It's time for the leadoff on Cougar Sports Saturday.
I have to wonder, Matt, if we're going to see Barrel Man today at the Marriott Center. Remember old Barrel Man?
Yes.
Oh, Wyoming Cowboys are invading the Marriott Center once again for the first time since 2011. BYU will be taking on Wyoming in men's basketball, and it's a revival of an old Mountain West, WAC, Rocky Mountains, Skyline Conference. These two have squared off 174 times. When you look at the matchup numbers between BYU and all their opponents all time, Wyoming has the most meetings against BYU outside of the state of Utah. Utah and Utah State hold the top two spots. So there's a lot of history, and it gets renewed today as BYU takes on the Pokes, 4 o'clock here on KSL.
Wyoming 7-5 on the year. They have not won a road game yet, 0-3. I like the matchup. We found out earlier in the week BYU will be making a return to Laramie next year. Coach Pope loved the idea of challenging his team and taking them out on the road. Here's the thing, though. I kind of like it, and here's what Coach Pope had to say.
I like the game because I think they're good. I think Coach is unbelievable. I think he does an incredible job. His run at Northern Colorado was exceptional. And so I like the game that way. I like that it's a terrible place to go on the road. I mean, nobody wants to go there ever in the history of the world, wants to go play at Wyoming, and I like that for our guys. I think it's a terrific challenge, and it's got some history. I think it's fun for our fans. I think it's the game's got some history, and so I think it's going to be really good for us.
That's an all-time quote. You just don't hear that very often. It's a horrible place to go, and I like it for our guys. Like, when you're planning a trip, you don't think, this place is horrific, but I like it for the family. So I thought that was funny, but I like the game. I like regional games. Look, I don't know if Wyoming's that good. I think BYU should be able to win this game, even though they may be a little shorthanded. But I like regional games, and it'll be fun to see that old logo back in the Marriott Center in a few hours.
It definitely will. And to think that BYU next year will make trips in football and men's basketball to Arena Auditorium and War Memorial, it's like, what is happening? It's bizarro world. Because remember, there was a time when Wyoming said that they will never schedule BYU in anything because they left the Mountain West Conference. And, well, ultimately, cooler heads prevailed, and BYU and Wyoming are squaring off again. It is noteworthy next year that with BYU going to the AA in Laramie, that'll probably be, I would assume, based on what we saw this year, it'll be the lone true road game. And it says probably once again that you're probably not going to see Utah State unless something changes between now and next summer when the schedule comes out for non-conference. BYU and Wyoming will be probably the lone road game unless something changes for Pope and he feels like there's another road game worth value. But yeah, I think that this is a fun series, and I think it's one that conjures up a lot of memories and history to my mind. I think back to those days when it was an old 10 p.m. Big Monday tip. It was Bob Carpenter on the call, Jimmy Dykes, ESPN, and I swear Wyoming always had this pipeline to international prospects where it was Sanu Amadi, and then they had this LDS guy, Marcus Bailey, and it was like those were great BYU-Wyoming games. BYU won a WAC title in Laramie once before. There's just been some great history, and I don't think that it plays any role into today's matchup at all. Like, I don't think Jackson Robinson gives a rip about BYU and Wyoming and the Barrel Man back in the day. But, man, there was some real heat between BYU and Wyoming back when Roger Reed was the coach and even when Coach Rose was in those early years in the Mountain West. So I think it's just a fun series. And, yeah, I'm okay with it. Like, I do think it's strange that a Big 12 BYU team is going to go to the AA, but hey, it hardens the team next year when they get that crack, and I'm okay with it. I'm all right with BYU lining up Wyoming once again because there is those fun historical storylines that I appreciate.
Two pieces of news for tonight's game in particular. One is the availability of some players. Sounds like just like the rest of us. My son has a cold. I feel like, gosh, everyone got sick during Christmas break. That also happened to the BYU basketball team, a few players under the weather.
We had a couple guys come back a little bit under the weather. That always happens, but good. Like, they're good.
He went on to say he doesn't believe availability will be affected. We'll see in a few hours if people are able to recover enough from the illnesses to play. And then also an update on one of the key players on this team that we just have not seen very much due to injury is Fus Traore. Here's his situation with the hamstring injury.
Fus was in his first practice yesterday, which was so fun for me and all of us. He wasn't in the whole practice, but he was in the first half, and that's super exciting. He worked really hard over the 4-day break with Coach Robinson and Wiz, and so he's like knocking at the door. We'll see.
It's pretty exciting. On Thursday, the follow-up practice to that Wednesday one that Pope was referencing, same deal. He goes for the first half of practice. Looked pretty good. He had this sleeve on his leg where the injured hamstring is. But I thought Fus looked pretty good. I mean, I looked at him in that practice and thought he looks like he's getting ready to play. I wouldn't imagine he's probably going to give it a go today. But I got to think that Cincinnati game next Saturday, 1 week from today, the Big 12 opener, that's got to be the target. And to get him back potentially for Big 12 play is huge for this BYU team because Ali Khalifa's finding his rhythm in this offense. I mean, he's the number one assist-to-turnover ratio man in the country. He's off the charts good, 17-1. Khalifa's been outstanding. Jackson Robinson, he was a full participant in practice on Thursday. He's coming back from the ankle injury. So hopefully this team can get a little bit healthier because that's one of the downsides of this team so far. Even though they've had a great record, they just haven't had their full collection of personnel, which is a little bit unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but at the same time, I feel like there is a little silver lining there because it's allowed some role players to get into a groove, and now as you get into Big 12 play, you have some depth. And it's really a testament to this group that this team has been able to overcome some of these injuries because with the exception of the lone loss at Utah, this team has been blowing teams out. And they've done so with a rotating lineup, and they're mixing guys in. They're still trying to get Dawson Baker back into play. Dallin Hall, slow start to start the year. He's been cranking it up as of late, but this group is finding ways to get it done, and that's impressive. And now as you look forward to Big 12 play after tonight, hopefully Foose is right on the corner. I'll say this on Foose. I'd love to see him get a few minutes today, just because I think there is some value in just getting a little on-court action. Dude has not played since Thanksgiving. Think about that. It's been that long since he's played. He's probably not 100%, but maybe you just give him a 3-minute spurt here, a 2-minute spurt in the second half, depending on how the score is, just to get the hoop legs under him a little bit before conference play.
And I'm curious to see what happens with Dawson Baker. He did not participate at all in the practice on Thursday that I was in attendance for, and Mark Pope, coming out of last week's game against Bellarmine, he was saying, hey, everyone, pray for Dawson Baker's foot because we need a Christmas miracle. It feels like that is going to be an ongoing deal for him. And you wonder if it's getting to a point where, does he consider a medical red shirt? Does he opt to just hang it up this year, come back next season? It's a delicate deal, because if you're Mark Pope, you're like, I want to capitalize on anyone that I have right now because this team's really good. And next year, there's never any guarantees. With now the 2-time transfers can move whenever they want. There's no guarantees that anyone's back next year. You don't have that assurance anymore in college hoops and college sports in general. So it's like, what do you do? But at the same time, you want Dawson Baker's health to be at the forefront of the priority. I think that's going to be something to monitor going forward. Another personnel note, we didn't see Noah Waterman on Thursday's practice. He at least appeared to me to be under that the guise of the sickness category. So we'll see how healthy he is coming into today. But a lot of interesting personnel tidbits coming into today's matchup between BYU and Wyoming. Tip off at 4 o'clock right here on KSL. We'll get you ready for that coverage starting at 3 o'clock with Greg Wrubell and Mark Durant inside the Marriott Center. We're taking our first time out. On the other side, we'll continue to talk about BYU hoops as they continue to climb up the national rankings. They've set a record in their program's history. We'll hit on that next here on Cougar Sports Saturday.